Lily Winters had spent years learning one brutal lesson about Genoa City. The moment life feels calm, disaster is already waiting. And tonight, disaster had a name: Cane Ashby. The moment Lily stepped into the private lounge at the athletic club, she froze. Cane was there, not alone, and what she saw in his hands made her blood run cold. A thick file, her name printed across the top, not handwritten, typed, official, prepared. Cane looked up too late. His face changed instantly, the confidence draining from his expression. Lily. But she was already moving, fast. Her heels struck the marble floor with sharp purpose as she crossed the room and snatched the file before he could stop her. "What is this?" Cane reached for it. She stepped back. "Don't." The single word landed like a slap. For one long second, neither of them moved. Then Lily opened the file. Her stomach dropped. Financial records, corporate reports, private communications, and worse, a proposal. A takeover proposal involving Chancellor Winters. Her company. Her future. Her hands trembled as she looked up. "You were planning this behind my back?" Cane's jaw tightened. "It's not what you think." "Then explain it." His silence answered first. That was enough to confirm her worst fear. Months ago, Cane had returned to Genoa City, insisting he wanted peace, redemption, a second chance to rebuild trust after years of damage. Lily had never fully believed him. Now she knew why. He'd been planning something much bigger, something dangerous. Cane exhaled sharply. "I wasn't trying to hurt you." Lily laughed bitterly. "That file says otherwise." He stepped closer. "This isn't personal." Her eyes hardened. "That makes it worse." Cane hesitated, then lowered his voice. "Victor approached me." The name hit like ice water. Victor Newman. Of course, only Victor could engineer something this ruthless and make it look strategic. Lily's pulse spiked. "What does Victor want?" Cane's expression darkened. "He wants Chancellor Winters vulnerable." "Why?" Cane glanced toward the door as if checking whether someone might hear. Then he leaned closer. "Because there's another acquisition happening. One bigger than anyone knows. Chancellor Winters is leverage." Lily's mind raced. Victor never made moves without layers beneath them. If he was targeting her company, something massive was already in motion. And Cane had helped him. The betrayal hit harder than she expected. After everything they had survived, after all the promises he'd made, he had chosen Victor. Again. "You used me." Cane's face twisted. "No. You lied to me." "I was trying to protect you." That made her furious. "Protect me from what?" Cane opened his mouth, then stopped. Fear flashed across his face. Real fear. Lily noticed immediately, and that terrified her more than anything. "What aren't you saying?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He checked the screen. His face went pale. Lily caught the name before he turned it away. Nick Newman. Cane ignored the call. It rang again instantly. And again. Lily stared. "What does Nick have to do with this?" Cane looked trapped. Then he said something that changed everything. "Nick made a deal he can't escape." Across town, Nick Newman stood in the shadows outside an abandoned warehouse near the industrial district. His phone was pressed tightly to his ear. No answer. "Come on, Cane." He hung up, cursing under his breath. This was spiraling too fast. He shouldn't have agreed to the deal. He knew that now. But at the time, it had felt necessary. Sharon's safety had been at risk, and when family was threatened, Nick never thought logically. 3 nights earlier, a message had arrived from an unknown sender. One photo. Sharon. Leaving Crimson Lights. A crosshair over her image. Then 6 words. "Meet me. Alone. Midnight. No police." Nick had gone. Of course he had. The meeting had been worse than he imagined. A man he barely recognized stepped from the dark. Damien Cross. a fixer with ties to corporate espionage and very dangerous people. The kind of man Victor knew existed and avoided. Damien had smiled coldly. "I need your help." Nick had refused instantly. Then Damien showed him another photo. Faith, walking across campus. Tracked. Watched. That changed everything. Damien wanted one thing: access. Nick's access to Newman internal systems. Not enough to destroy the company, just enough to obtain sealed transaction files connected to Victor's newest acquisition. Nick knew helping him was dangerous, but refusing could get his family hurt. So he agreed. One encrypted key, one transfer, one deal, then done. Except now Damien wanted more. Much more. Nick's burner phone vibrated again. A text. "Midnight, warehouse, final instructions." Nick's pulse pounded. He had no choice. Not anymore. Elsewhere, Claire Newman sat across from Holden Novak at Society, trying not to smile. It wasn't working. Holden had that effect lately. Unexpected, unsettling, dangerously easy. For weeks they had circled each other with cautious flirtation and careful distance. Tonight felt different. Lighter. Real. Holden leaned back, studying her. "You're smiling." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Should I stop?" "No, it looks good on you." The warmth in his voice caught her off guard. Claire wasn't used to this. Normal conversation, easy attraction, no manipulation, no dark family secrets hanging over every moment. Just possibility. And that scared her. She looked away. Holden noticed. "What happened?" "Nothing." He smiled knowingly. "That's not true." Claire sighed. "I'm still learning how to trust things when they feel good." His expression softened. "That's fair." For a moment, silence settled between them. Comfortable silence. Then Holden reached across the table and gently touched her hand. The contact was electric. Claire's breath caught. Neither moved. And then, her phone rang. "Victoria?" Claire hesitated. Holden saw the shift instantly. "You should answer." She nodded and picked up, but the moment she heard Victoria's voice, her face changed. "Slow down. What happened?" A pause. Then Claire went pale. She stood abruptly. "I'm coming now." Holden rose too. "What is it?" Claire looked shaken. "It's Nick." Victoria's voice had been frantic. Nick was missing, and Victor believed he had betrayed the family. Back at the club, Lily stared at Cane in disbelief. "What deal?" Cane looked exhausted. "Nick gave someone access to Newman data." Lily's breath caught. "No." "He was forced." "How do you know?" Cane hesitated. "Because he'd helped arrange it." The truth sat there between them, ugly and undeniable. Lily stepped back like she'd been struck. "You set him up?" "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Her voice shook with rage. "You involved Nick? Why?" Cane's eyes darkened. "Because Victor needed leverage." Lily's stomach turned. This was bigger than corporate sabotage. Much bigger. And Nick was trapped in it. Then Cane said the words neither of them could take back. "Victor plans to sacrifice Nick to protect Newman." Lily stared at him, horrified. "No." Cane nodded grimly. "If the data leak becomes public, Victor will frame Nick as a rogue actor. He'll cut him loose to save the company." The room tilted. Victor would protect the Empire first, even if it destroyed his son. Lily grabbed her coat. "Where is he?" Cane blocked her path. "You can't go. Move." "Lily, listen to me. If you interfere now..." She shoved past him. "I'm saving Nick." And as Cane watched her disappear into the night, his phone buzzed one final time. A message from Victor Newman. "You failed. Handle Lily. Now." Cane stared at the screen and realized he had run out of time. Nick entered the warehouse at exactly midnight. Darkness swallowed him whole. Then the light snapped on, and his blood froze. Damien Cross wasn't alone. Victor Newman stood beside him. Nick's world stopped. Dad? Victor's face was unreadable, cold, controlled. Damien smiled. Surprised? Nick looked between them, confusion exploding into anger. What is this? Victor stepped forward slowly. A lesson. Nick's stomach dropped. No, impossible. Victor wouldn't. Would he? You set this up? Victor's silence confirmed it. The betrayal hit harder than anything Nick had ever known. Damien chuckled. Your father needed proof of loyalty. Nick's fists clenched. You threatened Sharon and Faith? Victor's expression sharpened. No one touched them. But the photos. A simulation, Victor said flatly. Necessary motivation. Rage tore through Nick. You manipulated me. Victor's voice stayed calm. You proved exactly what I needed to know. Nick could barely breathe. Years of conflict with his father had never prepared him for this. This was cruelty on another level. Victor's eyes hardened. You chose weakness. Nick stared in disbelief. I chose family. You chose emotion over discipline. The words sliced deep. Then Victor delivered the final blow. The board already knows about the data breach. By morning, you'll take full responsibility. Nick went still. You're framing me. I'm protecting Newman Enterprises. The truth crashed over him. Victor had sacrificed his own son to shield the Empire, and he felt nothing. Nick's voice dropped dangerously low. You'll regret this. Victor almost smiled. No, Nicholas. You will. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the entrance. That's enough. Everyone turned. Lily stood there. Behind her stood Cane and Claire. Victor's eyes narrowed. The entire game had changed. Claire looked shattered seeing Nick cornered like this. Grandfather, how could you? Victor didn't blink. This doesn't concern you. It concerns all of us. Nick looked at her, stunned. Then at Lily. Hope flickered. Lily held up a flash drive. I copied everything from Cane's file. Victor's expression shifted for the first time. Danger. Every communication, every instruction, every detail connecting this operation to you. Damien cursed under his breath. Victor's stare turned lethal. You have no idea what you're holding. Lily's chin lifted. Try me. For one charged second, no one moved. Then Damien lunged. Chaos exploded. Nick intercepted him with a brutal tackle. They crashed into crates. Claire screamed. Cane pulled Lily back as Victor barked orders. Nick and Damien exchanged savage blows, years of controlled fury erupting all at once. Then Damien reached for his jacket. Gun. Nick saw it too late. A deafening shot split the warehouse. Silence followed. Then shock. Damien staggered backward, blood spreading across his chest. Everyone froze. Behind him stood Cane, holding the gun. His hand shook violently. Lily stared in horror. Cane! Damien collapsed. Dead. The warehouse fell deathly still. Victor looked at Cane with unreadable calculation. And smiled, because Cane had just done exactly what Victor needed. A killer was easier to control. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called them. Victor adjusted his cufflinks calmly. This is unfortunate. Nick stared at him in disgust. You planned this, too. Victor said nothing. He didn't need to. Cane looked broken. Realizing too late he had become exactly what Victor wanted. Lily stepped away from him, devastated. You chose this. No, Cane whispered, but his voice carried no conviction. Claire moved to Nick's side, gripping his arm tightly. Holden suddenly appeared at the entrance, breathless. He'd followed Claire, and what he saw stopped him cold. Police flooded the warehouse seconds later, weapons raised. "Hands where we can see them!" Victor lifted his hands smoothly. Nick obeyed. Claire trembled beside him. Then came the words that changed everything. "Nick Newman, you're under arrest for corporate espionage and conspiracy." Claire gasped. "No!" Nick stared at the officers in disbelief. Victor said nothing. Lily shouted, "He's innocent!" But then one officer held up evidence. The flash drive. Lily's flash drive. Now wiped clean. Every file erased. Victor had prepared for this, too. There was no proof, no defense, nothing. Nick looked at his father one final time and saw it clearly. Victor had won. For now. As officers dragged Nick toward the exit, Claire broke down. Lily stood frozen. Cane looked destroyed. And Victor watched it all with chilling satisfaction. Then Nick stopped. He turned back slowly and smiled. Victor frowned. Why was he smiling? Nick's voice was calm, certain. "You should have checked the backup." Victor's face changed. For the first time that night, fear. Because somewhere in Genoa City, hidden beyond his reach, another copy existed. And if it surfaced, everything Victor built could collapse. Nick was shoved into the police car. The door slammed shut. Rain began pouring from the black sky. Victor stood motionless in the storm, staring after his son. Then his phone buzzed. One new message. Unknown sender. "The backup is already public. Check the news." Victor's face drained of color, and as every phone around him began exploding with alerts, only one question remained. Who had exposed Victor Newman's darkest secret? And what would happen when Genoa City finally learned the truth?